Hey guys, thank you for joining the Nurse Alley. My name is Nicole. This is our first video, and I just want to thank everybody for joining me because I have been kind of asking questions for a while just to kind of see what type of content you guys wanted from me, so that way I know what type of videos to put out, and that way I'm not just putting things out that aren't any good for you. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for answering questions. Thank you for helping me help you. So we're going to just go ahead and get started. This is our first video, and I'm very, very excited for the content that I have coming, and I'm just excited to be able to help somebody because I wish that I had somebody to help me a little bit more as I was preparing to apply for nursing school. So this is how to get an A in anatomy. All right, so if I look this way, it's okay because I have my computer here. I typed up some notes so that I can try to stay as organized as possible so this video is not as drawn out as other videos have been that I've seen before previously. So a few steps on how to get an A in anatomy. My first tip is to get organized. Things flow much better when you are organized. So be sure that like when you are preparing to go to school, whether it's for nursing or anything, get a planner, a really good planner. And I know there's a lot of different planners on the market, and I mean, feel free to kind of check them out. I typically go to Michael's. That's one of my favorite stores, actually. And I bought this, and I'm so sorry about this lighting, you guys. Work with me. So this is a happy planner, okay? So the happy planners are really nice. Each month offers something very, very unique, whether it's a to-do list, your happy list. Mine, for instance, let me just randomly pick a month. Well, I guess it's January, so we'll pick January. So for January, it says, like, for you to put down, I'm sorry if you can't see this, January goals, what's inspiring me currently, and coffee break. For instance, it says, turn that phone off and walk to your local coffee shop. While you're unplugged, get the creativity flowing by sketching, writing, or reading. So I have a different version of the traditional happy planner. This is like the self-care happy planner. So my planner offers me different things to focus on, things that are strengthening my mind, my body, and my soul, and that's what they say. That's what it says. And for instance, like I would typically like write down my personal life, things like phone bills due, rents due, pay off school loans, work schedule, and I would typically put that on like the monthly view. Right? And then as you like break down each month to the days, then I would like write down like what to study and things like that. So this is actually the planner that I'm using right now while in nursing school. It works for me. There's some things that I've noticed aren't working as great, but we'll talk about that in a completely different video. But overall, I love the happy planners. So I would suggest getting one of those for starting to get organized. Another thing is I took anatomy in the fall of 2017. So for me, I wanted to get prepared and just try to get in the know as soon as possible. Like I'm one of those people who tries to really like plan as far ahead as possible. Because my life is, I'm a single mom. So, and at the time I definitely was a single mom. Like I'm engaged now, so life has changed. Thank you, Lord. But, you know, the struggle was real. So for me, like I have to be organized and prepared for my life to flow smoothly. Otherwise, it is chaos upon chaos. But anyways, what I did was I actually purchased this anatomy and physiology book off of Amazon. This is the Anatomy and Physiology for Dummies. Now, the For Dummies has so many different types of books, and I like them because they break it down in ways that you can understand. It doesn't mean that you're legit dumb, but it's really cool how it breaks it down. I mean, and just even reading this before even knowing what my book list was going to be for school, knowing what was required of me or what my professor expected of me, this was very helpful because certain things that I may have touched on in a previous chemistry class or a previous biology class that I may have forgotten, this really kind of brought things back, but it also put it into perspective so I can get prepared for anatomy and physiology. So, and they use really cool terminology too. So it's like, you just have to get it, trust me. And I don't remember how much I paid for this, But I will find it online and I will make sure that I post that too. Something else that I did, because I had to take midterm too, as well. So I did the same thing. And it's the medical terminology for dummies. And I also got this off Amazon. And these things are great. I mean, I love these books. So if you are preparing and you have a little bit to go before actually starting the classes, I would totally suggest getting these. Or even if you're in the class and you already have like your required textbooks, access codes, or whatever you actually need, these would not hurt at all to just go ahead and purchase these as an additional resource to break down something in layman's terms that the book sometimes can, you know, be a little difficult to understand some things. Okay, so that's that. Another thing is to use your study guides. Now, we do get study guides for a reason, and I understand every professor is different, so I am only telling you what worked for me. So for me, usually your professor, when it comes to giving tests or quizzes, like they will tell you where they mostly get their test information from. So whether it's from lecture or whether it's from directly from the PowerPoint or it's from your book or all of the above. So one thing that I liked about my professor is, so this is an example of one of our study guides. In our study guide at the top, it lets you know that 20 to 30% of the test comes from textbook reading, lecture, and PowerPoint. The good thing is on his PowerPoints, he would literally bold something and make it red. So if you saw bold and red, write it down. Another thing that I would do too is I would have the PowerPoint printed out on like the, where you can have like three slides per page with the note lines on the side of it. So you have all the required information that the professor's going over here on one side. And then on the other side, you have the ability to fill in additional information that he may not have in the PowerPoint, but he may have mentioned. So, which can be, you know, really good to know later on when you're studying on your own. Another thing with the study guide was I would like review it to see like what he wanted. And then I would highlight as I mastered each thing, if that makes sense. And how I studied for anatomy various ways. For me, my holy grail, number one, numero uno, was flashcards. And I know this is as basic as they come for an idea. And sometimes, you know, people learn differently. So this is just how I learn. And for me, repetition works. And some people might call it overkill, but I'm just going to share with you how I got an A in anatomy. And I hope that anything that I'm saying helps you in some way. And if you need more clarity, let me know. We'll do another video. So, Dollar Tree, you get 100 of these cards for $1. So I would go to the Dollar Tree and like buy like 5 or 6 packs at a time, because that way I'm not in there often. And honestly, you're gonna use them. So these are just like examples. So I would like make my cards. This is just an example of my card, one of the cards that I use. And then I would write, and then I would highlight, and I would legit be up. I would put my daughter to sleep after I've cooked dinner and she's taken her bath and I've showered and I've cleaned up and done all of the above. And then it's like, okay, I'm tired, but I got to study now. So I would be up until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning studying, and then I'll have class the next morning. So dedication, you got to have it for sure. Another really good tool that I used was Google. So Google has pretty much everything, obviously. But I used to print out like little cheat sheets, little like picture sheets, and I'm looking for them, and I'm so sorry because at one point I thought I was organized for this video. Oh, there you go. So for instance, I would go like, if we're on bones of the skull, I would literally like print out a blank worksheet, little cheat sheet, and I would fill it out. So for me, this builds my muscle memory. So I've already, you know, read the PowerPoint with the professor in class, took my notes on the side of it. Then I would go home, follow the study guide, and I would, and another thing, I wouldn't study stuff that wasn't on the study guide, to be honest, because it wasn't test material, and it already takes a lot of time and energy to study this stuff. So I wasn't trying to study anything that he wasn't going to be testing us on. So I legit would just follow the study guide. So if the study guide was on bones of the skull and we needed to know every single bone in the body, which you will, which is so fun. Yeah, and it's real. The struggle can be real if you don't put the time in. So I would print these out, and I would, after my note cards, I would fill this out and print out different views. So this was the inferior view of the bones of the skull. Just this random free worksheet that I found on Google. Bones of the skull with a lateral view. Because the thing is, you don't know which view they're going to test on. So you need to know all of them. This was the interior view. Again, print it out, fill it out, and just different views. And I would just, label, highlight. And for me, this is just helpful for me in building my muscle memory when it comes to certain things. Now, I'll be honest, and this might be number 3. I don't know what number we're on, but we're just going to talk through this. Anatomy is a beast. So I did not take anatomy, chemistry, and physiology together. I took them separately because I wanted to maximize on my grade. I wanted to be able to put all my time in on studying this information, and so that I can actually absorb it and remember it, and that way I'm not feeling like I'm just completely overwhelmed, which can be easy if you take multiple heavy load or heavy content classes at one time. So that's just what I did. I wouldn't recommend technically taking these classes together if you don't have to. I don't know what your school may or may not require of you, but if you can spread them out, I would spread them out, because that way you are not getting burnt out quick. Otherwise, you're going to become overwhelmed, and things are going to seem much more difficult than they really are, because it's possible to get an A in anatomy. I'm new at this thing, but it's all good. Transparency for the win. If you guys saw my setup, you would totally laugh at me, but it's okay. We're gonna work it out. Okay. Oh, all right. Saved. Okay. This is so funny. All right, so moving on. I don't know what that was about, but moving on. My teacher was so helpful because he would actually print out additional sheets too. So we would have lab days, and we will have lecture days. So just pay close attention to what those days are on your personal calendar. So again, just things to assist in your learning. We also had this really cool thing called Mastering AMP, I'm pretty sure it was called. I will look it up. I don't know what that was about, but moving on. My teacher was so helpful because he would actually print out additional sheets too. So we would have lab days, and we will have lecture days. So just pay close attention to what those days are on your personal calendar. So again, just things to assist in your learning. We also had this really cool thing called Mastering AMP, I'm pretty sure it was called. I will look it up just to be sure, but I know for a fact it was called Mastering. And what this was a digital program or website that we could access. It came with one of our books that we purchased, and it was awesome. When I tell you, you can click on, you can get so many great views of the body. And I might try to find it, because I'm sure I still have access to it, and I will show you a video on how it works. But it was a digital view of the body, and cadaver, mastering cadaver, something like that. I'll find it, but it was so realistic. There's so many different views. It explains to you whatever you're clicking on, whether it's a bone, a vein, a muscle, whatever, a little description of it, and you have the test option. You can slice it, you can, it was awesome. And that was definitely very, very helpful, because again, the whole thing when it comes to anatomy is repetition. And I think that comes with anything. And sometimes it might seem like overkill, but it's what works. And for me, I rather do what works. So again, and I'm so sorry, this is our first video, so it's not quite as organized as I would like it to be, but the other ones will be coming forward, moving forward. But so just to kind of briefly go over, number 1, get organized. Get a planner. in your binder. Make sure you have your calendar, your syllabus, everything that you need in an organized fashion so as that it's easy to find. Highlighters. I use specific highlighters for certain things. So just for an example, in my book, I would highlight something yellow that, I needed to bring more attention to, or when it came time when I left school to go home to study, that I paid more attention to study because I wasn't completely grasping whatever was highlighted in yellow. Green, if it was on my study guide and I looked at it in my book and I fully understand it, it's a go. I don't really have to put that much time on this topic. I still need to review this topic, but I need to go ahead and focus on something else that might need more work. Or I'd use pink for a definition, or I'd use orange for like an essay, because our quizzes and tests would have essays. So and he would give us a few options of possible essay questions on the study guide. I would answer them all during my personal study time, and I would go through the book and I would highlight them in a certain color. That way I knew that was the essay answer, but I would still write it down. But if I had to go back to just see what was in my book, I would go to my book. And just keeping a system of being organized, I promise you, it is going to make your life so much easier. 2, actually use your study guide. Don't spend too much time on things that are not test material, because at that point, yes, there's so many wonderful things about the human body in this book, but the time that you will have to spend studying on the stuff that you actually do need to know, you're not going to have any time to study the stuff that actually isn't test material. So focus on what he wants you to focus on. Okay? Now, so repetition, it works. So you have your PowerPoint during lecture time. You follow along, take notes. You go home, make note cards from your study guide. Use your resources. If you have free tutoring or anything like that at your school, which I'm pretty sure every school offers that, take advantage of it. If you want to do study groups, take advantage of that. Personally, I'm not a study group person. I found that I study best by myself. I am very good at teaching and helping others, but I struggle in study groups because once I'm in my groove and I'm going, like, if you're talking about Grey's Anatomy, as much as I love Grey's Anatomy, it's going to throw everything off for me. Or if you're talking about Fuller House or whatever, Netflix, whatever is popping right now on TV, or whatever you did over the weekend, it's going to throw me off. And I have to have like my perfect setup, like quiet. I have to have my computer, my book, everything in front of me, and then I just go, and I go for hours. But I will definitely say it's very helpful to take breaks. Don't get so caught up, and I've done this and got caught up plenty of times, where you burn yourself out because you're just so in the groove. You want to finish, and it's like you've been sitting for like 4 hours and you haven't eaten, taken a pee break, a stretch break, anything. Take a break. Please take a break, because your brain at a certain point isn't going to absorb all the stuff you're trying to get in there anyway. So take a break. Okay. So this is just a first video, intro video. I have more videos coming because for me, I have a week before second semester of nursing school starts. So I want to get out as much content as I can. The first thing that I'm going to be covering more specifically is simply how to study, or easier ways, or mnemonics, or things that make certain parts of anatomy and physiology easier to understand. So if we're going to talk about cranial nerves, we're going to talk about the bones, the muscles, and things like that. So I just want to thank you guys for listening in to the very first video. I was trying not to make it as long, and I hope it wasn't jarbled. I hope it was a good video. Please like this video. If it was, don't give me a thumbs down. If there's something you want me to work on, comment it, please. Just let me know. Just be real. This is our first video, and I just really pray that things just continue to grow. And I just thank you guys for wanting to grow with me, go on this journey with me. And again, just welcome to the Nurse Alley.